My name is Cordell Buckley. My job here is as the conservator/restorer for the Natural History Museum of Jamaica. My job basically is the restoration of all paper-based materials for the division. That is basically my job. I actually learned from one of the elders in the system, Sir Scott, been here over 45 years, to my knowledge. I actually learned that the skill or the craft under the apprenticeship system. So I get appointed, or I'd say I get accepted for the job, and then I learn on the job. So I've been learning on the job for a little over a year, then I'm on my own with this craft. So in case I leave or something like that, I'll have to train somebody to fill my space. The part that I like the most is the finishing touch. Yes, because when you see the conditions of the items and where you have brought them from, and then you see the finishing touch, you feel like this is really fascinating. You did a wonderful job, and you actually feel happy about it. That is a nice part. The processes has changed for a very long time now based on my checks, because we have evolved a long time. We're no longer using the animal glue on the book spine. We're no longer using that. We're actually using this one now, which is the J410 adhesive. You can see it. This is what we're actually using now. And this actually allows for better adhesiveness, easier to be removed. The water can remove it, and the processes are actually easier to reverse. Some of the animal glue, they're like very difficult to remove. So I'm glad that we evolved from using the animal glue. So I've been coming a far way. Typical day for me, I would actually be doing a lot of inspections. I may get calls. I may have to go to different areas, different libraries in the division to inspect what any paper-based material that they call my attention to. Books, maps, periodicals, newspaper, anything. Once it's paper-based material, that is the area. And after doing the inspection, then I would advise that particular person whether or not I have the materials to do the job. Because the materials for conservation, they are very expensive. All of these are actually purchased from overseas. The Japanese tissues, all from overseas. We don't have them locally. What else? We can get some of the wrapping materials locally, but not the Japanese tissue. Definitely overseas. The Clusil G, the rice starch paste, overseas. What else? And some of the tools, we have to get them from overseas. So it's not like readily accessible locally. And they are very expensive. So sometimes when you do the math and you see the cost to actually do the repairs and the conservation on the books, it actually outweighs the cost of the book maybe 2 or 3 times. So it is a very expensive field or craft to actually preserve or conserve or restore a book. Very expensive. So the first step is to do a thorough inspection of the material or the document before you move forward to repairs and restoration. So with this book, we can see insect damage on it. The paper seems to be very strong still. No signs of deterioration just yet. Very strong paper. So far I'm only seeing insect damage, minor foxing caused by environmental factors, maybe due to temperature or humidity in the storage. Alright, so this text block was in the cover, but the cover is damaged, so we're actually going to remove the text block from the cover. And first step with this is to protect the text block from any form of chemicals or spillage that may occur during the repair process. So we normally use newspaper to wrap the text block before we begin removing the old animal glue and the spine lining from the book. So we'll do this. We're going to wrap the text block in this paper, some form of protection, right? And we're going to move it to the end of the table. We're not going to let it flush. We won't let it flush because we're going to actually remove the spine lining from the book to do the restoration and preservation. So, with this being done, we need a little weight on the book. Now we're going to move on to rice starch paste. So this is rice starch paste. We cook this just as how you'd cook rice for about 20 minutes. While we're cooking this, we have to keep stirring and stirring and stirring so we don't have much lumps in the rice starch paste to do the soak off of the book spine. So if you can look closely, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to apply the rice starch paste to the book spine. This would be a reverse process to remove the lining of the spine. So in order to conserve and preserve the book spine, we must remove the old lining and the old glue from the book spine. So this craft actually requires great time and patience, and also tidiness in order to get the best results or outcomes. So it is not a process that we can rush, and there is no shortcuts in this process. So if you can see clearly, I applied rice starch paste to the spine of the book. We're going to allow it to soak. Sometimes you get a call about a restoration job and they're actually setting the time frame for you. It is not like that. It is not like that. These processes take time and patience. And the more you take your time and do it, the better the outcome of the job. Because if you rush the job, you will lose on the quality of the job. I see myself as someone that is good with hands because I used to operate forklifts and all sorts of things before I get here. So I believe that may be the reason why they chose me for this post. So I'm good with my hands, and as you can see, I know what I'm doing. So, and after starting this job and learning about the different and the various techniques used in it, I actually grew to love it. So, and it's something that it is not common. So that is another thing. So you're doing something that is not common. So yes, you kind of feel special a little way about it. All right, so this is a different book. As you can see, this one is in a very terrible condition. I can see water damage on this one. As you can see, the paper is aged terribly. Water damage, there's mold, there's foxing. So again, this would all be due to, maybe due to poor storage conditions, environmental factors, heat, light, insects, all of that causes the paper to break down. So as you can see, the paper is very brittle. In most cases, we remove our gloves because sometimes the gloves makes us clumsy. So as you can see, this one, the paper is a little brittle. So I'm going to demonstrate how we restore this. I'm going to actually use, this tissue is what we call the Clusil G tissue. This is made by stirring Clusil G powder with alcohol, and we shake and we stir until we get a solution that we actually apply to a regular lens tissue like this to end up with this tissue, which is a Clusil G tissue. So when we work with this tissue, we actually use ethanol to activate the adhesiveness from this tissue. So I'm going to demonstrate. So as you can see again, paper is deteriorated, broken, and I'm going to demonstrate. Okay, So I use my weight here, and I will apply my Clusel-G tissue on the damaged area. Right, you can take a look like that. Okay, apply it on it like that. I need some protection, so I'm going to use one of this Reme for protection. Alright, so watch the magic. I'll apply the ethanol to the Clusel-G tissue. And I have my bone folder here. And we rub. Apply more ethanol. And we rub. Now this process actually dries quickly due to the fact that we use ethanol to activate the adhesiveness from this tissue. So this will dry quickly and you will see the difference. So I'm going to do another section. First, get this in place. Again, the paper has deteriorated over time. So we do these principles to restore and conserve the material. So I'm going to apply another piece of Clusel-G tissue. As you can see, I'm tearing the tissue. We don't normally cut, we tear it. Alright, so I'm going to do some more magic. Use my bone folder. Apply. And I rub. Okay, that's good. But I know persons who do paper conservation like myself from the National Library of Jamaica, but no other in IOJ. So these are my lab spatulas. I actually use these to clean off the spine of the book. Sometimes you can use this to handle brittle paper and stuff like that, or tissue. These are my brushes. I use this when I'm applying glue. These are my brushes. And this is my carver's knife. And this is my bone folder. These are my utility knives. This is my divider. And this is what we call the whisk rug shear. So this is a special shear that we use in binding. It's actually very expensive too. Replacement of these tools, I would say it's based on how you care them, but you may actually use them up to 3.5 years before you can say, alright, ask for replacement. Yes. Rough still needs to soak some more, but if you can look closely, you can see that I'm removing some of the lining from the spine. This is an old brown paper. Still needs to soak a lot more. Alright, so this is old brown paper. Removing that. And then I'm going to apply more paste because this usually takes a good amount of time, as I explained earlier. So apply some more rice starch paste to the spine. So getting back to this, as you can see, it's getting dry. So far I have 2 pieces back together, and I have one more piece, this one. Okay, so let me show you. Again, this one. So this one should fit right here. Okay. So watch the magic again. Okay, so this one. So I'm going to position in place as best as possible. Use my weight. Keep it there. And I will apply Clusel-G tissue yet again. Okay. Okay, so this is it. Apply. Alright. Remove the weight and do this other section right here. Okay. have that together. I just have to give it some little time to dry so you can see what it looks like afterwards. So this is it. And remember, it was broken in pieces. It's gonna dry shortly. Now, what I want to demonstrate is how we use the Tengucho 5-gram tissue. This is what we call the Tengucho 5-gram tissue. We normally work with the 3-gram, 5-gram, or the 9-gram, but the 5 is the most ideal one because with the 5, you can see the writings from the document better through this one. The 9 is too thick, the 3 is too thin, so the 5 is most ideal. So I'm going to show you how we would actually do lamination process with one of these sheets. Let me look for a single sheet. I'll make up a section afterwards to get it back in place. So I'm going to demonstrate the lamination process. So with the lamination process, what we do is to sandwich the document between the Tengucho Japanese tissue. So that's the tissue. We have the document, and we put another Tengucho Japanese tissue on top. That's the sandwich, right? And then we are going to, I'll have to work with that side. We're going to demonstrate. So with this tissue, we use the rice starch paste. With the special tissue, which is the Clucel-G tissue, we use the alcohol. So that's the difference. So this is document, that's the tissue. We normally use a wide brush or a large brush to do this process, but I will still demonstrate with this brush. All right, so, all right, you can see what's going on. So this is a rice starch paste and the Tengucho 5-gram tissue. Okay. Normally we use a wider brush, so it would not take that long to complete. Alright, so I'm actually halfway. Okay, so this would actually preserve the material because rice starch paste is known to have good aging properties, so it actually preserves. So we flip it over and we do the same process for this side. Same process. After this is complete, we would then leave the document on a what we call a drying rack for it to be dried properly. Once it is dried, we then use a utility knife, or we can use one of our whisk rug scissors to trim the excess tissue from the document. Drying process may take some time, so we may not have to wait for this to dry. So I just want you to see what it looks like. So this is the lamination process. Lamination process, there it is. And once this is dried, the document and the information would be preserved. Okay, all right, so we can now take a look at this. So this is the repairs done using the Clucel-G tissue and the alcohol. You can see it? Yes. So even though I've done this repair, I would still need to do the lamination process like this, in which I put the document in between the two Tengucho 5-gram tissue. So I just do the repairs first to get these pieces together, like normal, before I do the lamination process. Thank you all for being so patient again. And I also would like to stress again the demand for patience while doing this job. This craft demands a lot of patience and great neatness in working. I cannot stress that enough. Now we're at the stage where the paperwork has been completed. Earlier I demonstrated repairs on the paperwork where I put pieces back together, and then I had to go through the lamination process. So this is what the final touch looks like, the lamination process. As you can see, the paperwork is very old, but the conservation has been done on it. This paperwork has been around from 1886, so that is a very long time ago, 1886. So again, this is the final piece of the lamination process. The book is in its cover, lettering and decoration done, and this is what it looks like. Now, as regards to the other book that I demonstrated, restoration and conservation of the book spine, this is what the final piece looks like. Restoration and conservation of the book spine. As you can see, the decoration, the headband, the final layer of paper, brown paper. Beneath that you have a strong paper that we call the mull. This is for reinforcement of the spine. You can see the tape beneath the mull as well. So this is the final piece as regards to the restoration and conservation of the book spine. And as you can see, the book has been completed and it's in its cover. The only thing left to be done to this is to join the end sheet to the book cover. And this is what it looks like when it is joined. So the end sheet joined to the book cover, this is what it looks like. This is marble paper, just like the original. So the marble paper, end sheet joined from the text block to the book cover, and this is the final piece. You can see the lettering and decoration, and as you can see, spine and tip binding technique used. So this is the final piece. Thank you so much for your patience. It's a pleasure demonstrating as in regards to book binding and conservation of paper. This is all what it is about. Very demanding job as regards to time and patience and neatness in working. Thank you so much for watching.